Okay, yeah, I have a question. What does somebody do when they're trying to file child abuse charges and the sheriff refuses to do a report? The magistrate refuses to do a report, and police say it's not in their jurisdiction and basically cut you off.
So, child abuse investigations would be under the Department of Health of Department of Social Services. Have you made a TPS referral
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
report?
yeah,
That would
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
okay.
Tom
So
Hughes,
that would
yeah,
be the
the
correct mechanism, and then the state will investigate and then take whatever action that is necessary, if any. They should send a letter to you regarding what they have done with the report.
yeah, they did that. This is a while back. They did that, but they lied. They actually said that they don't investigate, they don't look into emotional and serious emotional mental abuse.
Um, mm,
And it's actually in statute 14-318.4 that explains that serious mental injury is child abuse and needs to be looked into.
right. So typically, again, the state will not. When I say the state, I mean the DA, right? They're gonna definitely look at what the allegations are, and I can't get into the underlying allegations with you because that's not our 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 jurisdiction. We do not try cases at that level,
No, 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 no.
right?
I get it. I get it. But but go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so depending on who it is, what it is, the facts and the circumstances, if it doesn't rise to the level that CPS or the is feels that it is something that they can actionable for them because they have very specific guidelines, then and it is not an issue that rises to a level that the DA or the magistrate feels like it's criminal, then the other option, depending on what your relationship is to the child, could be a custody matter. Because there's a lot of things that may not fall within CPS or criminal that may be best addressed in a custody context. It's a case of um, what's better,
Well,
which
it's
avenue is better. So
the abuse that I'm
kind of that helpful.
no, not really, because this, I mean, when you're trying to file child abuse charges, which is listed as a felony, saying, oh, go back to court, or, if you, God forbid, you have a child who's being sodomized and somebody says, oh, don't worry about it, just go to court and wait to go to court. That's not that, that's not the same
But that's a
avenue.
different patient from emotional abuse.
No,
So
because
it's more fact and it's a more fact intensive discussion. And so if you've made your allegations to the county and to these other people that this is what's going on in the household, and they have investigated and said, hey, this is not something we can move on, then it may be that it doesn't rise to the level that is considered under CPS or criminal
but
charges. Doesn't mean
they
that there's not emotional abuse going on. It just means that it has to rise to a certain level for both of those entities to be involved, become involved.
what is that level?
That's going to be a fact, and that's a fact intensive discussion, right? So it becomes a fact intensive. If you feel like something is not happening, I would definitely encourage you to meet with a family law attorney and have the discussion about whether this is an appropriate if child abuse is the real appropriate remedy here, because if you went to a magistrate or reported sexual abuse or whatever the abuse, physical abuse, then that's going to be treated differently because you have given an allegation that is sufficient to meet that standard, that is objective. The issue is with emotional abuse, what you may deem as emotional abuse and what somebody else may deem as emotional abuse may be very different. So you've got to be able to sit down with an attorney and have that discussion of if that meets the statute, even though you may believe that it is severe emotional abuse. That's a definitely different. That's a more fact intensive discussion. And if you meet with a private attorney and have that conversation, they may lead you to the fact of helping you to understand why you're not getting the why it's not maybe criminal, or why it's not maybe why it's CPS is not able to move on it. And then they may be able to give you a remedy, which is what I'm saying is if this is your child, then child custody is a better avenue because it doesn't have to be criminal, or it doesn't have to rise to a certain level for CPS to get involved. It just has to be that this is what's in the best interest of the child, is to change custody arrangements. So it just depends on what the facts are, what your relationship is to the child, and I think a family law attorney would be able to give you more insight as to fact intensively what is the best remedy.
Yeah,
And
I've gone that route, and that's basically been no help. Family law attorneys basically don't want to fight DSS or DHHS, and don't want to fight the system. And so it's next to impossible to get what should be easy for an investigation, because they refuse to even do an investigation.
Is this your minor child? Is this your child?
Yeah, these were my girls.
Okay.
Yes, my daughters.
So, I would say continue, just because. So again, I think the issue becomes it's not about whether yes needs to get involved and remove the children. It just may be custody. It just may be custody. And
no. They're emancipated at this point. So they're above 18. Okay. And what I've gotten, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
It's Maria Bruner.
Hey, Maria, I have a website, and on the website, we have well over 20 judges in North Carolina accused of child abuse. We can't get a single sheriff to file a charge against them. I have someone who called me up, I want to say a month and a half ago. She was doing a FaceTime with her child, and this is what was described to me. And let me just
ask a question before you go too far. We get down the rabbit hole.
Sure.
You're not calling about wanting to make a child welfare. You're accusing judges of emotionally committing child abuse. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So,
but hold on. But I don't want to go down this. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. This is also my case, because I've spoke to, when my daughters were, before they were emancipated, when I tried to file child abuse charges, the Judge Sheriff Len Hageman rather refused to write a report. Okay. Seth Banks, the district attorney, refused to answer the phone or talk to me. It goes down the whole list of stuff that I've gone through. Okay. Are you an attorney?
Yeah.
awesome. When's the last time you heard a judge call somebody's ex-attorney or ex-attorney to the stand in an hour to have them testify against that client?
It's possible, sir. The issue is you are having this is not necessarily falls within CPS, okay? The child welfare. You are trying to collaterally attack judges based on their judicial action that they're taking in the courtroom that you perceive as being abusive to children. That's a
Total.
whole nother. That's a whole nother statute.
No, but it's
What
the whole
child welfare is
it's the whole system that when you cannot file child abuse charges, whether they be wrong or right, and you're being denied by a sheriff, yet you have gotten literally 8 other phone calls from different people complaining about the same serial child abusive judge because he's abusing their kids.
And again, what we do, what my section does,
Sure.
okay, I don't have, what you're describing does not fall within child welfare here, okay? Because child welfare is charged with protecting children from their caregivers.
No, you're not. You're not. You're
not.
telling me everything else. You are telling me everything else but this.
It
No.
does not fall within that. And so I could not speak to what it is that you're concerned with. I appreciate that you have concerns about what the judicial person is doing in these cases, but it is not, as an assistant attorney general for child welfare, that allegation does not fit within the scope of what statutorily child welfare is designed to do. And so again, I can't advise you. I don't represent individual people.
I understand, but the fact that when I go to DHS and I speak to the director and he blatantly lies and says we don't investigate emotional child abuse, that's scary to me, because that's like
the issue that so there's several issues with what you're saying. Again, what I will say is that what you are describing does not fall in statutorily under our charge. DSS was not wrong to deny that claim because the person that you're claiming it against does not fall within the statute for which is actionable. Okay, for us.
I don't. You explain that. You explain that. I'm not following you.
Okay. So it has to be a caregiver of the child. If it's not a caregiver of the child, if you're not trying to make a report for child abuse for the judge's child, it does not meet the criteria for child welfare. It's not children in general. We're not protecting children just generally from any and all people. We are charged with protecting children from the people who are supposed to protect them. Okay? So when a parent is abusive or a caregiver is abusive to a child, that is the charge of CPS. It's to protect that, intervene in that child's best interest when their caregiver is the abuser. That's it. And so what you're alleging falls outside our authority. I cannot comment on what it is that you're alleging. What I can say is it does not fall under child welfare. And I don't know, I can't advise you because I don't represent you on the best course of action for that, to seek a remedy that what you're concerned about. But I can tell you very clearly that it does not fall within the scope of child welfare for that reason. Okay?
Yeah, but when I'm looking at 7B dash 101, the definitions and the providers, it goes through who are actually, you have the caretaker, any person or parent, guardian, custodian who has responsibility for the health and welfare of the juvenile and the residential setting, a person responsible for juvenile's health. And it goes into an adult entrusted with the juvenile's care, potentially, let's see, I don't want to read this whole thing. I'm just going to pull out the stuff.
Presiding judge does not fit any of those descriptions.
Sure. Number 6.
A presiding judge just does not fall in as a
Number
under any definition under 7B.
Number 6, court, the district court division of general court of justice. Number 7, court of a competent jurisdiction, the authority to act law. I mean, there's it goes into the actual court system.
Caretaker for the child. The judge is not a caretaker for a child. They have jurisdiction over abuse, neglect, and dependency cases, but they are not a caretaker.
Okay, but
you are misinterpreting what that statute is saying.
Okay, even though if I'm misinterpreting, are you saying that basically, and North Carolina's DHHS, the Division of Child Services, just willy-nilly can turn down any severe emotional abuse, child abuse?
Discussion, and that's going to be based on the facts that you've alleged in your complaint, your report. However, when further discussion with you, I don't even have to get into the emotional support piece because you're alleging it against a person that does not fall under their jurisdiction. So there's nothing else for.
Okay.
That's what for our discussion. It ends there.
I know you want to end. You're looking for anything to end this discussion because it involves child abuse. Okay, this is severe emotional child abuse. Okay, and
I think the problem is your recourse is not child welfare because you must allege that the person that is acting is the caregiver.
Oh, I made those complaints. I totally made those complaints against, my ex who was the caregiver, and they ignored them.
And what I'm saying is, if I cannot, the DHHS, let me just back up. DHHS is the state agency that is charged with the oversight of counties administering agencies, right? So the county is the person that brings the allegations, that investigate, not the state. Okay, we oversee them from a programmatic evaluation, make sure that they're compliant with the federal laws. However, if you have made a report, that report was reviewed, there is a process by which that happens, right? But that's not what you're bringing up to me now. You're telling me that your children are emancipated, so I'm not hearing children that are in jeopardy of continued abuse. That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing emancipated children. I'm hearing that there's multiple complaints. So this sounds like it's not pertaining to, it doesn't fall within something that is actionable for the county at this time, or even a role for the state to oversee at this point. If you have concerns about how the statute is applied, then that is a more appropriate conversation for somebody else, right? Either legislatively or something like that. It's not for the state entity, right? Because there is a process by which the counties receive reports and they investigate them and they determine whether they should be screened in or screened out. Unfortunately, every report will not be screened in, and every report will not be screened out. But there is a process by which that occurs. And, as long as the county received the report, looked at the laws, determined whether it met the criteria or not, there's nothing for the state entity to do as long as they follow the procedural requirements under the statute. And if you're alleging that they have not, then
Yes.
there is go ahead.
No, I'm alleging they have not. They intentionally lied about not covering. My case was 2016. Okay. I actually went in in 2015, spoke to the DHHS, and I laid down the whole thing, told them exactly what it was, and got a letter. We do not investigate emotional abuse. Did not rise, and it did not rise to the whatever. I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But I hope you understand that being lied to by DHHS and saying we don't look into emotional abuse, knowing, according to the CDC, emotional abuse is 3 times higher than sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, and they don't look into it, and knowing how damaged my daughters are and continue to be. I understand you may or may not have kids, but I haven't seen or heard from my children in over 10 years. Okay, this is not a normal thing. This is, they hate you, they call you, leave me, whatever. This is a specific type of psychological and emotional child abuse that I went in, that I spoke to everybody, and we do not cover that. They lied to me. They do cover that. They didn't want to investigate it.
And again, without being able to get under the facts and circumstances, which at this point, that was several years ago. And I understand that you feel like that you have been wronged or there was an injustice in your case. However, at this point, there doesn't sound like there's anything actionable that the Attorney General's office can do at this point. And it doesn't sound like that the Department of Health and Human Services that does not take complaints. It is the county administered programs that take complaints. It doesn't sound like
they're not doing action. Okay. I have heard. No, I don't want to water this down and have, oh no, I don't want to talk about. No, this needs to be talked about, because I have literally heard from 7, 8 other parents that the same judge that was on my case is abusing their kids in the identical or similar identical ways. And hold it. No, stop. Please let me finish. By not being able to write a report by the sheriff or by DHHS, the next person can't say, oh, this criminal, okay, this judge who's abused other kids, there's a report on him or her. So they can't say, oh, look, there's other people. Okay. I have, like I say, 7 to 8 other parents who are dealing with this same judge and many who are dealing with other judges, because the sheriff's department and DHHS refused to act on anything. Okay, they refused to do reports. So what you're telling me is that the Department of Justice is okay with serial child abuse.
That is not what I'm saying.
Oh, that is totally what you're saying. That, oh, we're looking for other stuff. You said this thing, so I'm going to try and cut you off here. I know this, what you're saying, maybe child abuse. I can't get into it, but I can't do anything, and I'm going to let it happen.
I don't know if you have looked. There is a way to file a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services. I think that may be a good resource for you. This is not talking to me. There's nothing that I can do at this point, but you're free to file a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services. There is on their website, they definitely have a grievance procedure. I'm happy to give you that website. But
that would be awesome.
There is nothing that I can do to remedy what you're discussing with.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What is your job, and if there was an issue, what would that be, and what would be your remedy, kind of thing?
That's not my role. My role is to represent the Department of Health and Human Services Child Welfare Division at the state level. I do not have a role in the county level. So
okay, so what about this? So what? So you're on a state level. So explain that. So it's only when things rise to a state level. I don't understand where.
No, it's that we in North Carolina, we are a county administered system. So each county administers child welfare for their county. Like I was explaining earlier, the state has an oversight from a federal regulation to make sure that the counties are complying with federal law. So, and what the federal government requires. So that is more of our role and oversight as it relates to that. We do not get involved in county decisions of whether they substantiate or don't substantiate allegations of abuse, neglect, or dependency. That is not the role necessarily that's not the role of the state agency, is to make sure that they comply with the federal regulations and that they are following their mandates federally, because we are the state agency that is responsible for complying with federal law.
Okay.
And so we must make sure that the counties are complying with federal law. Now, if you have a complaint, definitely it's on our website at ncdhhs.gov. There is a grievance procedure, a complaint. You can definitely file it there. But I just don't, it's not that I'm trying to cut you off, sir. It's just that I do not have a remedy for what it is that you're seeking. And I don't want you to be frustrated because I don't have a remedy or an answer for what it is that you're seeking. And so I don't want to, I can tell that this is something that you have been working on for a while and that you're very concerned and passionate about, but this is not the office or the division. Like, I have no authority to assist or to offer a remedy for what it is that you're discussing.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you were in my shoes, and you getting a call every month, every couple weeks, every 6 weeks, whatever, about another judge in North Carolina about the same thing. Sheriffs refuse to write a report. DHS refuses to investigate. I mean, and I'm going to give you one thing right now. Okay. I have a friend who called me up 6 weeks ago who has on for her custody. She has FaceTime, and when she called up, her ex basically had the phone and said, okay, I'll bring you over to your son, and then held the phone away, pulled a gun out of his waistband, moved over, went to the back of this kid's head, held the gun up to the kid's head, then put a gun away, and then handed the phone to the child. When she said, hey, I've got pictures of this, DHS said, nah, we can't tell. And I could see, I've seen the pictures. Is this a normal thing?
Again,
I get it, but yeah,
don't represent. That's a county decision. It's not DHS. It's a county. So that's gonna it's gonna be a fact and circumstance, intensive discussion based upon those, and I cannot discuss case facts with you. Like I can't, I don't get into.
I get it. You have to be the umbrella. You can't be the one holding the umbrella. and I get it. But I'm just saying,
your purpose. I'm just trying to advise you that I hear what you're saying,
but you do.
But this is not the remedy.
I am
not the remedy.
You do realize, and I get it. I totally get it. But my question to you is, before I know you want to leave, if DHS on a county level is not investigating serious crimes like that, or serious, severe emotional trauma and child abuse, if they're not investigating that, then how are you able to, and if the sheriff's department, police department, all of the entities refuse to write reports, how are they complying federally by abusing children and not writing reports?
Again, that's a fact and circumstance. Intensive discussion about why a report was not made. And so I am not able to give you an answer to your question. So, I understand that you're passionate, and I definitely understand that you're very concerned. But again, there's a complaint component of our website. Definitely fill out a complaint, and be a more appropriate person to answer your questions and have this discussion with you, to maybe reach out to you through that mechanism. But at the Attorney General's office, at this point in juncture, I am not able to address your concern at this time.
So I do have one more, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep adding on. So is there a point where so many people are calling out child abuse from DHHS where you guys actually will pay attention?
Every incident of child abuse seriously. That's why we have that's where there are county agencies that are designated to investigate those child abuse and neglect cases as it pertains to the statute. So we are definitely concerned about child abuse, and we definitely
how many complaints do you need from different people throughout all the counties? How many different complaints are you going to need before you do something?
Miss Kim, what's your last name?
Gottfried, Gottfried. I have at least 50 people in North Carolina that would love to make complaints on different DHS people and
definitely respect the question, but that is not something that we can answer, but I can answer. It's a complaint. component there. If you have concerns or or questions or complaints, you definitely feel free to use it. But that
So,
is not a question that I can respectfully answer.
so yeah, you kind of did, I guess. And it basically, no matter how many people call up, you have your things that are going to run the way they run. You sound a lot like I dealt with another person, Hugh Harris, in Josh Stein's office, and he just wanted to smooth things over to the best of the ability rather than act on things. Because I'm already aware that you guys bring in 150 to 200 million dollars every year into the general fund from Title IV D&E. That's a lot of money for you to give up. And so it's much better when it doesn't matter if there's 20 people or 200 people complaining about DHH services. Doesn't matter how many children are abused. If you can find a way to keep that money rolling in, I know that's what you're going to do. And so I do appreciate you saying, oh, hey, file this little complaint. No, this is felony child abuse charges. And they're felony child abuse charges against your DHHS services in North Carolina that you can't do anything about. And that's sad. It's absolutely reprehensible. So, yeah, I know. You're just sitting there, let me talk. And because there is no answer that you can do without getting other people in trouble and possibly disrupting that money coming in.
Tim, thank you so much for your time. I am sorry that I could not give you a satisfactory answer.
Now, I do have one. I know. Is there you're a supervisor that you have to report to?
Do I report to? Are you ready?
I am ready. Got my pen all up. Go ahead.
Lisa Bradley. She is the section chief for my office. So.
Okay, and does she have a phone number?
If you contact that other number that you just contacted for the section, it should get you through there. Let me see what's her. Hold on one second. Looking, I never.
Take your time. It's all good. And by the way, I appreciate the talk. I'm not really calling to, complain about you. I think you were very professional this whole time. But there's got to be more. There's got to be some different avenue to go as opposed to just make a silly complaint to somebody in a back office who will maybe act on it, maybe not. I mean, this is severe child abuse. And for, I've done enough research on this and spoke to enough psychologists and spoke to enough individuals about, what goes on. And I've seen this stuff firsthand in what you do in family courts and the corruption that's in there. This is, I don't even know what to say. I mean, there's gotta be some avenue to go. Okay, go ahead. What did you get their number?
For her administrative assistant is number is 919-716-6849. Her name's Brittany. And I believe you talked to her earlier. She will need to send a message to Lisa Bradley so that she can contact you. I can let you know that won't be immediate as she's out of the office for a while right now. But when she returns, she will give you a call.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. And thank you for your time. Bye.
Hey, Fletcher. Record your message at the tone. When you're finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Yeah, hi, this is Kenneth Gottfried. I'm trying to get in touch with Lisa Bradley. My number is 828-406-8760. That is 828-406-8760. Thank you very much.